My current research is focused on what I call relational aggression. And relational aggression involves using relationships as a way to harm other people. So in contrast to physical aggression, which is the kind of aggression that's been studied the most, physical aggression uses physical damage or the threat of physical damage to harm others. In contrast to that, relational aggression uses relationships. So it includes behaviors like telling a peer that you won't be their friend anymore unless they do what you say, or giving someone the silent treatment when you're angry at them to punish them, or using social exclusion as a way to get even with someone else, or maybe even spreading rumors about someone to get the peer group to reject that particular person. And the reason I got interested in studying relational aggression, and actually my first interest that led me to this area was aggression in girls, was because I had spent my graduate school days studying primarily physical aggression, and although it was interesting to me, again, something just didn't click for me. Something was off, and I realized that once I became an assistant professor and was building my own research program, that I really wanted to think more about girls and what was going on with them. And so that's what I did. And at first the million-dollar question was, well, if girls are aggressive, what is it that they're doing? And so one of my graduate students, Jenny Grote-Peter and I, my first graduate student and I, talked to a lot of parents and teachers, and we thought about our own experiences as females growing up, and decided that one thing that girls might do to harm others is to use relationship damage, because relationships especially are particularly important to girls. The findings are mixed at this point with respect to relational aggression. In physical aggression studies, of course, there are hundreds and thousands of them compared to only a handful of published studies on relational aggression at this point. But studies of physical aggression have shown that boys are overwhelmingly more aggressive physically than girls. Studies of relational aggression, we're really still exploring that question. There are mixed findings. For example, in preschool, there are some studies that have shown that there aren't any gender differences in relational aggression, but some of the newer work, including some coming out of my lab, using naturalistic observations, which are less likely to be biased compared to other types of ratings, such as teacher reports, teacher perceptions of kids' aggressive behavior, or peer reports, which might be influenced by gender stereotypes. The results from the observations are showing that girls are very clearly significantly more relationally aggressive than that boys are, even at younger ages. In middle school, there are, most of the studies have shown that girls are more relationally aggressive than boys, but in some studies there have not been any gender differences found. In adolescence, the story is pretty similar. In fact, some studies, especially those that have used self-report, have found boys to be more relationally aggressive than girls. And so I think it probably varies not only by developmental period, and it probably varies according to how you measure relational aggression. And so I think we still have a lot more to do in that area. But one thing I'd like to add is that I think even if relational aggression doesn't, during a certain developmental period, doesn't appear to be more common among girls than boys, I think what the data very clearly and consistently show is that it has more meaning for girls and more salience in terms of the types of outcomes that are associated with it for girls relative to boys. There hasn't been much research yet on family factors related to the development and maintenance of relational aggression, but it's something that we and a number of other investigators are currently looking at, and we have found a few things so far. For example, psychological control. Parents who use control techniques on their children, like guilt induction, things like that. I'm not going to love you anymore unless you do this, love withdrawal. That seems to be related to relational aggression so far. I also think that in addition to looking at the parent-child relationship, that looking at the sibling relationship is important as well. And we've done some of that work too. Again, it's still in its earliest stages, but we do find that siblings, older siblings who model relational aggression are more likely to have younger siblings who use those behaviors as well. And in fact, one of my favorite examples is when an older sibling will say, for example, to their younger sister, I won't be your sister anymore unless you do what I say. So it's alive and well in the family, and I'm sure that the family does have a role, but we're still trying to understand exactly what that role is at this point.